At the outset, I actually support the Trump tariff, proposals. Not the way it has been announced, but broadly, if you see where we started, the average tariff in the US was about 2.5% for roughly an imports of about 4 trillion.
Right.
They were not really charging anything. So most countries were having free lunch, including India. I mean, we had 100-200% tariffs on many products. So I think the starting point was right. If they had calculated the reciprocal tariff based on the actual numbers, for most countries it would have come in the 10-12% range. And
Right.
then if, say, a country like India had made the tariffs on, say, auto or pharma or many of the others to zero, then our reciprocal tariff would have come down. This could have resulted in actually more trade, because if all countries reduce tariffs, you end up having more trade. But what actually happened was very different. They came up with some really weird way of calculating based on their trade deficit, and that sort of spooked the market, and that has created all sorts of imbalances in the market. I think the starting point is great, but how it has got implemented and how it is progressing is the bigger question, which I think nobody understands right now, has created some imbalance. And then I do feel that India, if it plays its cards well, we can actually benefit a lot, because US does want to reduce its dependence on China. It's not going to happen overnight. They are like the manufacturing hub of the world. Even if India wants, or even if US wants, it cannot happen overnight. This is a long drawn process. We are seeing that with, say, Apple, who wants to increase their production in India. This could happen with a lot more countries if we play our cards well, make the tariff zero in many of the products. I don't really know why we should have such high tariffs for some of these products. And even if the tariffs were made zero, it's very difficult for US companies to actually compete with the Indian products. I was talking to a tire company, and they were explaining that India has a almost 15% tariff on tire imports, and US has some 2% tariff. He said even if you make it zero on either side, rubber is produced in India, so we have inherent advantage of raw material. So in fact, the companies are going and saying make it zero, because they can compete in most segments. I mean, look at liquor. I mean, you can compete. So I think some pockets we may lose out, but in general we will benefit with lesser tariff in most products. And if we were to do that, and more companies, more US orders were to come to India, over the next 3 to 5 years, I think we could benefit a lot. As I said, we have to play our cards very well.
Right.
And that could help, manufacturing shift, which hasn't happened so long. I mean, we've been talking of China plus one.
Right.
Very little has come to India's pocket till now.
Right. But from a stock market perspective, when you look at competitiveness of Indian industries and companies, and then their, valuations of some of those pockets, all the China plus one stocks, some of the manufacturing companies, textile companies, what is your view? Do you see any value in buying them as stocks right now?
So first, I would want to say that Indian entrepreneurs have become very protectionist. And I sort of agree with Mr. Uday Kotak when he says that...
Weren't they always?
Of course they were. I mean, you go back to, the 90s and think of the Bombay Club. Famously, they wanted protection even in 91. They were always, and even now they are. So when Mr. Kotak says that we haven't created a consumer brand because we don't want to compete outside, I sort of agree. So I think in a way, if the tariffs are brought down, maybe... I think we have the capability, but if you have the option of protection, why do you want to give it up? So I think that's one. Two, from a valuation standpoint, I think not every sector will benefit. So in some sectors we are not very competitive. In some sectors we are very competitive. Say in pharmaceuticals, maybe we are competitive when it comes to generics. Maybe when it comes to liquor, we may not be very competitive. If you're making wines in India and wines in the US are far cheaper to make, we are not. Maybe in solar panels, we are not competitive. But the entire solar panel is made in China. So maybe there's still some protection available because we are talking of tariffs with the US. So I think it's a balance that one has to figure out. Even in textiles that you mentioned, textile as a sector, one of the textile manufacturing company mentioned that we have a free trade agreement with China, with Bangladesh. And if we don't control that, you could get dumping coming from China into Bangladesh and to India. So I think it's a very fine balance how we see this. With the tariffs that US has put on China, those goods will surely find its place in some form or the other, in some market or the other, which could be deflationary, which could have an impact on many of our companies. So I don't think I have a straight answer.
And therefore, would you be bearish on the manufacturing sector in India? Do you see it as a big threat?
Yeah, so I don't have a straight answer for that. Honestly, we are grappling every day. We are learning new things. So which is why I said that we are more cautious right now, because we are learning new things every day as to how things can impact. Like, never thought that the free trade agreement with Bangladesh can have impact, because the initial feel was textiles could be a beneficiary.
Right.
That may not be so if we get dumping coming from China. So I think it's very nuanced. It is specific. So maybe some auto ancillaries look safe right now. Right. As I say, they look safe right now. I don't know how things play out. Pharmaceuticals, if things play out and if we reduce the tariffs, they could look fine. Some defense manufacturing could be fine. So I think it's
So from what I gather from what you are saying, within sectors also, there is give and take.
Yeah, there is.
In the tariff negotiation, you are saying even within pharma, I mean, we could benefit by sort of giving away some portions in terms of cutting import duty on some drugs to be able to be a winner in generics, for
life-saving drugs coming from the US, these are really the expensive ones. The cancer-saving drugs are at 100% tariff. And if we make them zero, for US, they look at pharma, you have tariff, and we don't have tariff.
Right.
So they're not differentiating between a generic and a branded product. So that's what I said. If we play our cards well, how does it matter if a cancer-saving drug, which is a 2 lakh per dose drug, the tariff becomes zero? How much are we anyway going to use that?
Right.
And the benefit of that is substantially high, because we have a lot of manufacturing capacity on the generic side.
Right.
So as I said, there are a lot of moving parts, but I think if we play our cards well, I repeat that India could benefit.
Fair enough.
Network 18 is now the clear leader in digital media, with 55% more users on native platforms and social media than Times Internet. Network 18, the undisputed leader of news networks, way ahead of the times.